Hi everybody. So today we are going to talk about, are you being underpaid? Like, are you losing money where you're working right now? Is there potential you could earn more doing the same job? How can we make sure we maximize your income? I'm going to stop talking because I know Stella got a personal scenario.
Thanks, Francis. So I'm going to talk about a time when I identified that I was being underpaid when I went for promotion at work. And I think this is a common thing that happens, is that when we get promoted, we often take the first offer because you know you're already getting paid more than what you used to get paid. So you just think, okay, yeah, it's cool.
You're excited.
Yeah, exactly.
I got the job. I did 50 interviews.
So you're just like, you know you're going to make more money than you were making before. But I think don't be afraid to ask for what you're worth or what you're supposed to get paid, and don't let your employers or any recruiters make you feel like you should be grateful because you got a promotion.
They make you feel like you should be grateful. They make you feel like you're being greedy for asking.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to talk about something. So I remember a couple of years ago, I got promoted, and I got promoted within like the same team that I was in. So I got promoted to the next grade, and then when I got my salary, it was still like almost 20k more than what I was making before, but I felt like it was still on the low side from what I understood like my peers were making at that grade. So at first I thought, okay, I'm getting paid 20k, it's fine. But I thought, look, let me just like ask and find out. So I had a couple of colleagues that were on the same grade as me. They've been there for a couple of years. I knew that probably they'll be making more, but I just thought, let me ask. So I think sometimes it's a very uncomfortable conversation about salary. People don't like to say what they make. So instead of me asking specifically what they make, I was bold and said, am I getting underpaid? So I said, okay, this is how much I'm getting paid. Does that sound right for the grade? And the first person I asked was like, yeah, that sounds wrong.
So wait, did you tell them how much you were going to get paid?
Yes, I specifically said how much. I said how much I'm going to get paid. Yeah.
Had you started the role yet?
I had started the role.
So you started the role.
And you still hadn't decided.
Yeah, because so basically, let me give you context. So, I was working in government, civil service, and so if you're internal, things move quite quickly. So because of the same team, my same manager and things like that, so they already upgraded me on the system to become a promotion, whatever. And there's a few allowances that you get as well. So at first, when I queried it with my manager, she was like, no, that the amount that you're seeing is without the allowance. And I was like, no. Then I waited for my pay slip, and I was like, no, it looks like this still seemed quite low. So with my line manager call was actually further up. That was where the issue was. So I said to my one of my colleagues, you have to tell me how much you get paid, but does this sound like I'm getting underpaid? They're like, yeah. And they've done it based on what they got paid when they started.
Whoa.
And how many years before had they started?
Like a year before.
Okay, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, and I was getting paid less than what they were getting paid. So not even like I was getting paid at the same. When they joined, I was still like a good couple grand. So normally what they try and do is that when you come in on a promotion, they start you at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
So it was a number of things. So some of the people that came from external. So when you're external, you can negotiate better, but they will still say, no, that still sounds wrong. You're getting paid. You're getting paid quite lower than you're supposed to get paid. Yeah. So then I went to my manager, and she was just like, no, I think it's fine. So I done research in terms of like what type of benefits and allowance I'm supposed to be getting at that grade. And again, it seemed like it looked wrong. So I went to HR. I went to the head of profession, like I work in finance. And they all gave me evidence that, you should be getting paid more, basically.
That's interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then I took it to the director, because it was my manager said, it's not me, the director.
But it's above my pay grade.
Yeah, she set the pay, right? So then she tried to I had a meeting with her, and I said to her, well, I mentioned names. I was like, I said, I know for a fact, people haven't told me how much they got paid, but X, Y, and Z. I was like, these, and she was like, oh no, but they had more experience, they've been in this role.
But you never mentioned names, so how did she know who you were talking about?
No, I did mention.
Oh, you said their name.
Okay,
you said they told me that when they started, they got okay.
Yeah.
That's bold.
Yeah, I just thought, do you know what? I had the evidence. I said I had evidence of people that actually getting paid. I had evidence from HR and another kind of like.
So HR was on your side.
So HR gave me the facts. So I asked for factual information in terms of like at this grade, what type of what are the type of things should I be getting in addition to my like.
Okay, so they weren't talking about the salary. They were talking about the additional benefits that you get.
Yeah, which is monetary.
Yeah,
like an allowance and things like that. But she wasn't giving me the full thing, so she basically cut it in half. Well, not even, she cut it in a quarter of what I was meant to get.
So the director cut that allowance in a quarter? Yeah. Okay.
Why do you think that was?
So, it's funny that you say that. So, she, when I had a conversation
was she saving money to hire someone else, or?
No, it's not even, no. Basically, I think she had an issue. I don't want to talk about certain things, but she was like to me when I started
age.
Honestly, because she's like, oh, I mean, when I was your grade, I was only getting paid X.
Yeah, of course, because inflation was a thing.
And that was
inflation's real.
That was how many years ago?
She's a finance professional.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, the reality is there's going to be biases sometimes. People are going to look at you and say, this is how much I think you're worth being paid. But you have to go with the facts. In that
so she wanted to give you crumbs because she felt like that's what you deserve.
Yeah. And she was just like, oh, you mean you got promoted? And I'm like, yeah, I know I've got promoted. Anyway, so the moral of the story is I had the conversation with her, sat down with her. She was still trying to go back and forth, make sure that, no, I assure you, I put you in the middle. You didn't start at the bottom, across the whole.
But did you then say to her, HR?
Yeah, I said, she was like, oh, who do you speak to in HR? I mentioned the name. She's like, oh, yeah, that's the same person that gave me the information or whatever it was. So then she's like, I'm going to look into it. Yeah, so literally we had our meeting. By the time I got back to my desk, she'd already emailed me saying I've approved the salary increase. So she didn't check nothing.
Wow.
All right, so how much did you get extra?
So I got $7,000 extra.
Wow. So added to that 20k increase as well.
So the thing is, it was like, you just have to make sure that you're not getting bumped, Be bold, ask questions, and and just don't feel like, oh, because I've got a promotion, I'm getting paid 20k. Like, you're not being greedy. It's about what you're supposed to get at that grade. Why should you, at that grade, being underpaid?
I work for a certain company, and when I worked for the company, I was like, oh, do you know, if you can pay me, and I think the pay was something like, can't remember the exact figure, but that's neither here nor there. And they refused. It was one of my first negotiations. It was terrible negotiations, and they refused. And so they paid me $2,000 less than I wanted to get paid. And so I said, okay, fine, no worries. They said, listen, this is the most we can do. I had to get approved by my manager. We normally don't go this high. Like, we normally pay $3,000 less than this. And all of these stuff that they told me, I said, no worries. I fell for it. I literally fell for it. And I was external coming in. And I remember talking to the person who started the same day as me. And I said, how much are you getting paid? He goes, what, you want to do this? And I said, yeah, you see, I could go first if you want. He goes, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. I go, I could go first. What do you want? He goes, no, I'll tell you, it's fine. He was getting paid $4,000 more than me. And I was so pissed off. I was thinking, I can't believe it, because all I wanted was 2 more than where I was.
Wait, hold on. So this guy that was getting paid more than you, could it be justified? Did he have more experience than you? No. Okay. No.
Just thinking objectively.
No, because you know what it is? Because we had the same targets, we had the same responsibilities, we had all this external experience that supposedly he could or may have had. It meant nothing because we had the same duties and job role. So you can't turn around to me and say, this person had more experience. So what?
Yeah, you know, but they always do that.
But it doesn't make sense. We're doing the same. You're not valuing that experience because you're giving him the same duties and roles that he gave me.
Yeah, but you're saying to him that because you've got more experience, maybe you'll be able to just do more or move quicker or be more strategic.
But then I blew out his target every quarter. I know, no offense, because he did great.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that he wasn't a great hire, because he was. But I hit my target like every quarter for like 4 years. Do you know what I mean? So it's a very.
But if you think of it from being an employer, you're looking at a risk-based position, right? And the evidence in front of you.
Oh no, but I was great in sales prior. So
did you have more experience with this person? Did you that's what they're looking at, right?
I don't think I honestly. Okay, but I hear where you're coming from. I do hear where you're coming from. In this scenario, I believe you had the same experience.
Okay, that's fine.
I believe you had the same experience.
Yeah. That was the question.
Okay, but that's not even the crux of the story. If the story ended there, I wouldn't even mention it.
Yeah.
I was talking to a colleague, and they'll say, "I really like this job, but and it just pays so low." And I was thinking, "It's okay." How much you getting paid? They told me they get paid 10 grand less than me.
Okay.
And they've been with the company for like 3 years.
Okay, wow.
And they're getting paid 10 grand less than me.
Wow.
And then...
So in that time, so how long? 3 years they've worked there, right?
Yeah.
Had they had pay increases over that time?
So the pay increase, you don't really get pay increases with that. Because it was salary and bonus. The pay increases weren't really... They brought in later on, but it wasn't really. But they've been in the company for 3 years prior
they started on like mad low.
Exactly that. And so for them, it was, they're like, the base salary so low. And I'm thinking, you're getting paid 10 grand less than me. Only to find out that like 6 months later, they started to hire new people, and one guy just boastfully said, he basically gets paid 10 grand more than me. Right?
And that was 6 months after you.
That was 6 months after I joined.
Okay, so you got a massive disparity where...
So we had a situation where people were getting 20 grand gap. At least a 20 grand gap. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so...
At least a 20 grand gap.
So the thing is with that situation, it's like, what do you... Like, how do you prevent that? Because
you leave. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna tell you what I believe, right? Unless like you have shares in the organization, you have some level of ownership in the organization that's really meaningful. Unless the organization is really mission driven and you feel that this is actually I really want to be here, it's like start looking for other organizations and start looking for other opportunities and get another offer. And you can do two things with that offer. You can accept it if it's extremely good, or you can use that offer to negotiate with your current employer. Because the reality is companies pay you the minimum they believe you're going to accept. Because they're a business and they're trying to ensure that they're making the most amount of profit possible and they're trying to mitigate any loss. And so they are paying the minimum. There was a recruiter and I think she's horrible, but she's like, she turned around and she said, a candidate said what they wanted and it was 30 grand less than what we was willing to pay. You saw that as well, right? Yeah. She goes, it was 30 grand less than I was willing to pay, than I had budget for. I just gave her the salary that she asked for. I'm not going to teach no one how to negotiate. I haven't got time.
Do you know what? Okay, so I didn't see the same thing, but I saw a reverse of that. So this guy said I asked them what your salary expectations for this role,
right.
And they said a certain amount. And he was like, "Do you know that you're undervaluing yourself? You actually can make 30k more than that."
Wow.
And he was like, "I just thought it was my responsibility to tell this individual." Right. So
the thing is, it just depends on who. Like, you're gonna get people that are just gonna give you what you asked for. You're gonna get people that are gonna be like
people will pay you under you what you asked for. Like my situation.
I think the 20k and that 20k rate range. I think that's quite typical in the industry I work in. It's very typical for in that role. You may be at the same level, but you can start at one end of the scale or the other end of the scale. And that's really standard practice in the
That's too painful for me.
See, the thing is, do you know what? I get it because obviously a lot of like roles, like they do have a band, right? And the whole point of the band or the salary range is to kind of show like different levels of experience that people have. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah. Right.
But we also know that doesn't always work because like if you're really good at negotiating and selling yourself, you might have less experience than someone else, but because you've come in and
absolutely.
you know like your worth and you've done your negotiation, because they still have that ban, they still have that budget to pay you. And I think one of the biggest thing is that most of us need to have just confidence and not have this, oh, I should be grateful feeling, because a lot of us do this, oh, I should be grateful, I'm getting paid, I've got a job, I'm getting paid. No, like, no. In this day and age.
I don't think I think confidence is a major part of it, but I also think there's a bit before that. How do you get to that confidence? Sometimes it's about just knowing that there is a pay scale of between 20 to 40k for that role, talking to people. When I left one company and went to the other company, I knew somebody that worked there, and I just reached out to her and I just said, just tell me what's the highest level for this role. And she told me openly. So when I went in for my negotiations, I started very high at that level because I wanted them to surpass that. And so that's kind of typically what you need to do, talk to people, because that gave me confidence. Maybe if I didn't speak to her, I would have been like, oh, I don't know what to ask for. I'm not boldly asking. So I knew when those conversations were being had that HR have to now go and seek approvals to get me up to that higher level. I was like, okay, I know that I've reached past that band. I mean, and actually going back to the point that you made, Francis, I mean, there was go on.
Yeah, so in my situation, she said, I'm going to have to go back to HR. Typically, we're not going to be able to get higher than that. This is the most that we can give. So I probably should have told her, said, you have to go back.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I know what I should have done there. I should have said, I got other offers. Because I did have other offers. Yeah. I wanted to work for this company mainly because I was told the earning potential was crazy. So because of the bonuses and everything else, I said, you know what, I'll just bet on myself and make it happen. Yeah. But I should have pushed them and said, you know, I have an offer here, they're paying more, I wouldn't go with you, is it okay if we can move ahead? So
and I think I guess that was the difference. I did push HR to the point they were like, oh, we might have to actually promote you to the next level to get you over the line.
Wow.
So definitely get that confidence, use your network, use your network to find out about salaries, because it's an easier conversation to have when you're not actually working in the same organization as that person at that time. People are more they feel more confident in just freeing up that information as well. So I definitely would recommend that.
So based on kind of what we said today, I feel like some of the key things that we kind of what's been brought out is that, number one, push or be confident to or do research just to know. Do research, you know what I mean? And feel, so in my situation, I kind of use different sources within to validate before going to my director to say, this is why I should get paid more. In your case,
your research doesn't always have to be online. It's quite often it's people. It's who else can I speak to? What other sources can I get the information? I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and the thing is, some people, I'm a bit of a nurse. I like to read policies and make sure things are done the proper way, because when you have facts and figures, then they can't tell you nothing. In my situation, that's what I did. In your situation, you pushed for them to go to HR. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's how you being bold enough to know, let me see how far this will take.
Well, you was external coming in, right?
Yeah, you were external.
See, that's my thing. It's harsh. It's going to sound harsh when I say this, and I'm not trying to offend, but I apologize if I do. But if you've been in the same company, in the same position for more than 2 years, you're more likely underpaid. Yeah. Because as an external person, you will get more than you. Yeah. And so that's just the reality. There are. So if we're talking about for your company in your position, and you've been in that role for 2 years plus, they will bring someone in externally, and they'll typically pay that person more. And that's just kind of standard.
Yeah, and also remember, what goes with that is that each year, to be competitive in the market, they have to rise that kind of minimum level, but not for the internal. Yeah. So you will typically find what Francis has said is the case, because they have to keep up with the market, so they have to keep rising that figure.
Do you know what? That's a really good point, because I actually remember a situation when we were recruiting for a role in my team, and we put it out initially to internal and external and things like that, and we didn't get enough people, and then we re-advertised it externally, and then we increased the salary by a couple grand more for external people. So people that had tried to apply before internally, they were pissed. Do you know what I mean? So they knew they had to do it to make it more marketable and say, okay, we're starting the base a bit higher. So definitely, when you're internal, one thing.
Just leave.
I mean,
just leave.
One thing I would.
It's fine. It's not your daddy's company. Leave.
But we understand there are some people that you don't want to leave for whatever reasons that
just
may be.
Leave. You deserve more.
Okay.
Sorry.
But one of the things I do recommend, to one of Stella's points earlier, is about policy. Look at your HR policies. Be a bit of a nerd. Like the other day, I was looking for something else, and I stumbled across the policy. And this policy is called a retention policy. They literally have it in writing that if a person comes and says, "Oh, I got another offer from another firm," that they have a policy in place where they can actually put your pay up, and they have a bucket of money for that. Definitely. So look at those things. If you don't feel confident by what we're telling you, look at your policy, see if those things are in there. And then if you don't really want to leave, but you want to explore the market and see if you can get pay increase, use that tactic and see what happens.
No, that's a fact, because we, again, one of the teams I was working on, we done that as well. We gave someone extra money just to keep them in the team. So it's a real thing.
Oh, yeah, how did that conversation happen?
It was basically, so our team was kind of specialist, and we had not specialists, but it was hard to bring people in to retrain them. This person was getting itchy feet. We knew they wanted to move, and then we had conversation in the background, and said there's a policy and there's a allowance, and we gave them the maximum allowance for.
So on that, it's
what does that range look like?
So,
is it percentage wise of the salary, or is it like a fixed fee?
It was I can't remember, but for example, it might have been between 2 and 10 grand, on top of your salary.
But is it 2 and 10 grand on all roles, or would it be 1% to 6% on all roles?
I can't remember.
In my company, there's a percentage that they have.
What's the percentage?
I cannot remember. Anything I say would be a lie. But it'll be a percentage. But what they did say is, if you have taken that person out by that retention, if you use the retention policy, there's then a cap on, when you have the annual review, there's a cap on that uplift, because you've already, in a sense, raised their salary. So obviously consider that. But I don't think that cap is on the bonus, but it's on the, your non-variable pay. So just look at your policy and understand all the ramifications of that as well. But
So, okay, so I guess what we're saying internally, look at policies. Because it's a key thing. There's promotion policies, so there might be a certain percentage that they will go up to. There might be retention policies. So if you want to stay in the organisation, look at those kind of things. If you're coming externally,
negotiate like crazy.
negotiate. Look at see what other organisations are recruiting for the same roles and have open salaries. Try and reach out to someone within the organisation and see if they know what the range is for that type of role. And what other things?
I've got one more thing, but we didn't talk about this, and I'll keep it really brief, is if you are recruiting if you are applying for a role internally, try and get a good relationship with the recruiter, because actually they can advocate for you in terms of salary negotiations. If you just build that rapport with them, they can literally be your best friend. So definitely do that. Do not see them as a barrier.
Definitely. Francis, anything else you wanted to add?
Apart
from leave your job.
Why do you think I would say that? Just leave. No. I do believe that. So I was talking to someone, and they were telling me that every 3 years that they double their salary. And they do that just by strategically leaving the company, leveling up. And they've done it for over a decade. And so it's you should just imagine where they're on right now. And so I get it. If sometimes if your focus is, I want to do this particular type of work and I'm getting paid the most for it, then it makes sense. Now, if you want to work for a particular company and the culture and there's all these other factors then you may want to be a bit more relaxed with that. But, you have options. And explore your options. You're not stuck. You're not forced. You don't have to do what people are saying that you have to do. That's one of the biggest tricks that companies do. They make you feel like It's the only thing you can get.
Companies do that, and recruiters as well.
Oh my God.
So I don't know, maybe that's a whole nother episode.
Oh my God.
I think we need to do another episode.
Yes.
It's probably our longest episode since. Please tell us about your scenarios. Leave comments below. Send us personal messages on Instagram. We want to hear from you. We want to speak to you. Send us messages for ideas for our next videos as well. I think we're probably going to do one on recruiters soon. We really appreciate you guys. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.